Hello, welcome to the Bible study. My name is Kent Philpott. I'm the pastor of Miller Avenue Baptist Church in Mill Valley, California. That's San Francisco Bay Area. And this is the Bible study. Actually, we began this in, I believe, September of 1984. And 3/4-inch tape, and filmed in my living room where I lived on Knocknable Way in Terra Linda, which is a subsection of San Rafael, and started splicing it together, doing weird putting together of the videos, and ran them on local television. And so we've been doing this Bible study program since then, and only doing one program a month. I will do 4 programs, and at one setting. And so here we are on the 4th of this evening's filming here at Marin TV on A Street in San Rafael. The title of this program, by the way, in the control room are my wife Katie and our dear friend Mary Keydash, just the two of them running this whole thing. And so we do this on one Thursday night, Thursday afternoon every month. All right, the name of the program is The Tower of Babel. Babel. Wow. This talks about, this is the great city of confusion that is going to fall. And it's important to know some of the core portions of the Scripture. I mean, this is not a really exciting thing to preach about. If I was looking to have, please everybody out there, I probably would bypass the Tower of Babel. It's not that interesting. But the style is very ancient, highly poetic, and full of symbolism. So, the significance of this story is that there is a continuing corruption on the earth, but there will be until the very end of time. Now, some have said, some commentators, and I don't know what to believe about it, that this chapter is out of place. This chapter 11 we're in chapter 11, verses 1 through 9, titled The Tower of Babel. And some think that it's out of place. It should have been earlier, or at least before chapter 10. But it's not really known for sure. I can see the argument, and it's just an idea. No one knows how that worked. But anyway, so we're talking about the Tower of Babel. Now, Babel, notice the word Babel. B-A-B-E-L. Notice the E-L. That's the ancient Hebrew word for God. God. L. Transliterated E-L in English. So we have God, but we have the word Bab. Bab. So Bab means gate. A gate. How you get to God. Now, one of the things that happened, and I was just reading a recent issue of Biblical Archaeology, and it was a discussion of a place found down in the area of Memphis in Egypt. A whole new thing is being presented by Egypt as a major tourist attraction. All of these things called ziggurats. And the Tower of Babel is going to be a ziggurat. They had the idea, if the higher you got up, the closer you got be to God. So Babel means the gate of God. You're going to find a way to open the door to communicate with God. And that's by elevation. By the way, there is no similar story elsewhere. There is an early account of a goddess named Nintar, that's N-A-N-T-A-R, Nintar, wants people, her people, to build cities and congregate in one place and not be nomadic. An old story. But that's the only thing that comes close. The reason is the nomadic people were always vulnerable to each other, and to build a city was to be safe. Create an impregnable fortress, the idea was. So now we have this story, the Tower of Babel. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And I wrote over that, really, with an exclamation mark. And commentators all over the place about it. One, it's a poetic way of speaking, that there's a meaning there that is lost on the people with a Western mindset like ours, not like the Eastern mindset that might take these words very differently. But my feeling is that probably the whole of the earth was not known yet, that this was how it was at that time. Okay, that may be an explanation. If you want to disagree with me, please do so. So, one language, same words. It's interesting when you look at the archaeological evidence from Siberia, let's say 30,000 years ago, and the development of languages that flowed out of that. There were a number of them. And that's 30,000 years ago. So, anyway, verse 2, and as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. Now, this is the area known as Mesopotamia, that area between the two big rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates River that we find in modern-day Iraq. So this is Mesopotamia, the land of Shinar. And we don't know what the word Shinar means, but anyway, verse 3. And they said to one another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. Now, what this is would be called kiln-fried brick. Out of clay, and they would find bitumen. We're going to find it in a minute. Bitumen was actually found between the Euphrates and Tigris at an ancient city called Hit, just H-I-T. Interesting stuff. A very ancient location, but they found bitumen there. So make us bricks and burn them thoroughly. In other words, you could stack them. You could put weight upon them. They weren't just going to turn into dust. Then it says, and they had brick for stone. Instead of stone, they had brick. By the way, in that area, little stone. That's why they were forced to make these brick-fired, these kiln-fired bricks. Okay. So they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. That means that they could build several stories high. Several stories. Now, in some of the old pyramids, they had tombs within them that were always kind of hidden away. But you could climb up, and they were solid. So, and then they said, verse 4, come, let us build ourselves a city. First a city, of course, for protection. They're trying to protect themselves from the marauding bands, and a tower with its top in the heavens. In other words, a gateway to heaven. They wanted a gateway to heaven, a tower, the ziggurat. If you want to Google the word ziggurat in your computer, you're going to find some photos of some of the ancient Egyptians' ziggurats. Okay. And with its top to heaven, and let us make a name for ourselves. In other words, a monument. This is going to be a big deal. We'll be well known. And lest we disappear over the face of the earth. We are somewhat aware of these people with the hieroglyphics left behind, carved in the stone, in some of the tombs. in these ziggurats, these pyramids. I read an interesting piece. I think it was in the New Yorker. It may have been the Atlantic, but I think it was in the New Yorker, about a guy who showed how, with building materials today and not anything bought at the store, that you could actually have these mammoth portions, and how you could bring them up and set them in place. And it was very interesting to read that. So, so they thought, they had the idea, if we can just get close to heaven, I mean, obviously, they're not going to be able to build as far as where the moon is, much less a star like the sun. But somehow they had the idea that if I can just get far up, I can be closer to God. So they had a God concept at that point. And so they wanted that protection, a city right there with the pyramid, want to make a name for themselves. They were looking for protection. They were exposed to all kinds of mayhem. They were not safe and secure. And dispersed over the face of the whole earth, that means they'd have to run. They'd have to take off, scatter. Goes on today. You read about it, what's going on in Afghanistan. They're having to run, get away, dangerous. Verse 5. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower. Now, another anthropomorphism. The Lord came down, put it in a way that the ancients could understand. I suppose it's a way of speaking of it that would make sense. Maybe it was the language of the day. Did not have the understanding of the omnipresence of God, that He is where He is here. The omnipresence, God is present with us, and but here we have this poetic way of speaking, understandable to people that day. Come down to see the city and the tower, which the children of man had built. The children of man had built. The children of Adam had built. Verse 6. And the Lord said, behold, there are one people, and they have all one language. So in other words, they can communicate. It means they can organize. They can plot. They can work things together. They had the strength in the numbers then, and the communication. They could develop plans. They could organize. That was apparently what they were doing, what they were wanting to do. And I have a note that I made to myself. It is not necessary to take this exactly literally. And says, and this is only the beginning of what they will do, and nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. That, of course, is called hyperbole. It's one of the formats that can be used in poetry or in any other kind of writing, the use of hyperbole. Of course, there will always be stuff that is impossible for us. So I say, come, let us go down there and confuse their language. Now the word confuse is Babel in the Tower of Babel. Now this word is Babel. B-A-B is there, but it's A-L. Interesting how the language, how the author puts this very interesting way of communicating this. Put the Babel, and make Babel of their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech. Wow. At least maybe it would prevent some disasters, but I doubt if that is going to be a solution. But anyway, you have this maybe they're trying to explain the origin of all of the languages, or they're trying in a funny way, funny poetical way of talking about the extremes that people go to, and that God observes and confuses and brings it to a false result, dangerous result. So anyway, that's what it says, verse 8. So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore its name was called Babel, gate of God, because there the Lord confused, again, Babel, the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of the earth. Wow. And Babylon means just that. Babylon means the city. That's where the name Babylon comes from, the word Tower of Babel. So he dispersed them over the face of all the earth. And, you know, if you're like me, you think to yourself, wait a minute, this is a little bit confusing. Am I going to have to take this literally? Well, it's up to you how you look at it, and because we don't know the intent of the author, and we don't always know the exact lesson that the author wants to have us have. But what I see is that the attempt of humankind to make a gateway to heaven, to be close to God, to have God be your friend, to communicate with God, it's always the human effort to do that kind of thing that I think I'm seeing here. The Tower of Babel. And God prevented it. He shows us that this isn't going to happen. You, on your own effort, by your own means, you are not going to bringing yourself up to God and therefore earn some reward or protection as a result. So there is going to be a city of God. Wasn't it Augustine that wrote a book called The City of God, where no sin is present, separated from the demonic kingdom in heaven, but that city that will be placed into hell from which it was made. So again, we run into the problem of evil, theodicy. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different, but I'm going to tell you a story that I'm going to be talking about in church about Bob Dylan. I want to tell you the story of Bob Dylan. You know who Bob Dylan is. Have you ever heard the song "Slow Train Coming"? Well, I have a story to tell you about Bob Dylan. I wanted to save it for this time. I knew I was going to have extra time. And I was always a big fan of Bob Dylan, a Jewish man. He's 1 year older than I am. And in 1980, 1981, I heard about that Bob Dylan had become a Christian. I heard about that. And I didn't know what to think. So I wanted to hear him. I wanted to find some way to, find out. So in 1981 or 1982, I'm not sure which year, he appeared with a group of band and singers at the Warfield Theater in San Francisco on Market Street. I Googled the name Warfield Theater the other day, and sure enough, and it even told me the date when Dylan was there, but I can't remember, 81, 82. Anyway, a number of us attended that, and there Dylan was, and he sang the song "Slow Train Coming." I think was written in '79, and he never talked about how he had become a Christian. But it was obvious that he had been. And when you listen to those words in the Slow Train Cunning, you realize that that's what had happened. He'd become a Christian. And it was startling to hear. And he was with a group of people that I began to scrutinize as closely as I could. And I began to see an uncomfortableness that Dylan had with them. He almost seemed to be not annoyed by them, but bothered by them, and that he was somewhat distressed about that whole situation. And it wasn't too far off after that that he split with those people and literally went underground. And stopped. He didn't stop identifying himself as a Christian, but he had stopped identifying himself with Christians. And I understood kind of what happened to Dylan, and that this group, I could tell, were using Dylan for their own means. They were using his popularity, his fame, to advance their own agenda. And they were Christians, it appeared, kind of far out, wild, crazy, wild-eyed people. I could clearly see. And I started to understand why it is that Dylan pulled away from them. And I can understand why he just went underground. And I felt bad about that. And had wondered, how he was doing. But he's written some incredible songs. One of my favorite ones, I would like to learn how to play it on the guitar myself, is called You're Gonna Serve Somebody. You're gonna serve somebody. He says, it may be the Lord, it may be the devil, but you're gonna serve somebody. And he goes on in his beautiful poetic way. I wanted to bring that with me. I have it. I'm going to actually have it in the bulletin at Miller Avenue Church this coming Sunday. It won't be time enough for you when you hear this to come to church and get that. But if you'll email me, I'll send you that song. You got to serve somebody. It says you got to serve somebody. Katie and I went through a little discussion. And he says, it says, I got to serve somebody. I says, no. It says, you got to serve somebody. And it turns out that the actual title is, you got to serve somebody. But in the song, it's the word gonna. You're going to serve somebody. It may be the Lord. It may be the devil. But you're going to serve somebody. And I thought about how accurate that is. How really accurate that is. But we often don't frame it that way. And that's why I wanted to take this time with this program, because I knew I didn't have enough material for a whole half hour, to talk about Dylan's song and the reality of you're going to serve somebody. And we don't often think of that. But we, in our living of our life, we are serving somebody. It is either directly serving the Lord, or it's serving the devil, and we don't even understand it. We don't even know it. It doesn't go through our minds that just by living the regular self-serving life in our world, or however much good another you do in order to win fame and fellowship with other people and do good works, and it's a good thing to do good works. I do not despair that at all. It's important that we all do good works and help our neighbor and our brother and our sister. Yeah, we do that. But there is a service. And by serving others, it's not the same as serving God. You can serve God. When you serve God, you will serve others. But by just serving others and not God is not serving God. So that's what we're here for. You're going to serve the Lord, you're going to serve the devil, but we will serve somebody. Our hearts and our minds or someplace, usually on ourselves, usually on us. Most of our life we spent serving ourselves, which ultimately, when you break it all down, is a serving of the devil. And Christians are aware of this. It's one of the reasons for people that are called evangelicals. Evangelicals. The word evangelical means good message. EV or EU in the Greek means good. Angel means message, good message. That's why evangelical Christians bring a good message. But let me tell you, it doesn't often come across as a good message. It can come across as a very hard thing to hear. It can come across as very critical, as putting down, as, just not right. That there's something wrong. I mean, you're saying you're the only way. No, we're not saying that. We say that Jesus is the only way. Had nothing to do with American, nothing to do with your church, but it has all to do with Jesus. So the evangelical always points to Jesus, the symbol of the Jesus People movement, pointing up to heaven, pointing to Jesus. And that's what we do. And that's why there are evangelicals. And evangelicals are focused on presenting Jesus, not on other other interesting, however important issues. Our issue is one, to present the message of Jesus to other people so that we will serve the Lord. We don't want to be serving the devil. The tragedy is people live their whole lives, go on, and they're essentially only serving the devil, but they never come across. But Bob Dylan knew it. You may serve the Lord, you may serve the devil, but you're going to serve somebody. There's only two choices. It's as simple as that. And so I just wanted to leave you with this at the end of this program for you to think about it. And if you can, go get the words to that song. You got to serve somebody, or email me, and I will send it right back to you. It'll be my pleasure. So, we thank you for the witness of the Scripture. We thank you for the witness of Bob Dylan as it continues. All right, until next time, so long.